Hello there. Today on QPR News, we have a very famous guest star in the studio with us to answer some questions related to human sacrifices, as well as his thoughts on the arrival of Hernán Cortés. Please welcome King Montezuma II. Hello, Jimmy. We know that Cortés has arrived and has begun siege of your city. What is the story behind all this?
Well, when Cortés first arrived, we met at the entrance to the city. I tried to buy him off to keep him from entering the city with his men. It did not work. Cortés and his men entered the city and stayed in my palaces as my guests.
When did you realize that he was not a guest but an enemy?
Well, my people were not pleased with Cortés staying as my guest, so I asked him to leave. Cortés agreed to and left to conquer another city. During his absence, there was a massacre in the main temple.
What happened during this massacre?
I asked Cortés' men for permission to have a festival for Huitzilopochtli. They gave it to me, so we started the festival. During the festival, Cortés' men closed all the exits and started murdering my people. My people say that the men began the killing because they wanted the gold that they were all wearing.
And what happened after this massacre?
My people began a revolt against me, and the Spaniards have taken me as hostage for their security. I hear that Cortés is on his way back, and when he arrives, I fear that he will kill me and my people.
Thank you for their time. Now, to the Aztec world with our field reporter, Will.
I have with me a priest who performs the sacrifices. Priest, what is it you are wearing today?
Oh, this? I am just wearing the skin of a young man that we sacrificed earlier this week. We did this for our corn harvest for Zipe Totec.
Do you care to explain more about Zipe Totec?
Oh, of course. Zipe Totec is our god of agriculture and the seasons. He flayed himself so he can feed mankind. To pay homage to him, we practice this act of sacrifice normally.
Interesting. How often do you pay thanks to the god with this sacrifice?
Well, we have an annual 20-day-long festival known as Tlacazecapulsi during the time before the rainy season. Before the festival, we dress up a slave as Zipe Totec. During the festival, we flay the slave, and the priest, me, wears his skin. Afterwards, I go around to people's houses and ask for gifts and stuff.
That sounds like quite the celebration. Are there any other major gods that you pray to?
Well, of course, there's our savior Quetzalcoatl, who is here in the city as we speak.
I assume you're talking about Hernán Cortés?
Yes, Quetzalcoatl has inhabited his body to come save us.
So you believe that he is a god?
Why, of course. He is the patron of priests, the inventor of our calendar and books, and the god of death and resurrection. He is one of the most important gods.
Wow. All of this in the body of Cortés? He must be very powerful. Are there any other gods?
Well, there's our rain god, Tlaloc. We must pray to him quite often, for he gives us all the water we receive.
Well, I recommend you pray to him a bit more, because, whew, it's hot out here. Thank you for your time, sir. Back to you, Jim. Good evening, warrior. I see you have many new gifts with you. How did you earn them?
I have fought in many battles and captured men in each. To attain these rewards, I provide men for the priest to sacrifice. From this, I earn my titles.
That sounds like quite an arduous task. What are your views towards the Cortés and his men?
Do you mean the so-called God who is unleashing his wrath upon us?
That's a strong opinion, but yes. Have you done anything to enrage him?
We have given him all proper tributes and sacrificed way more men than normal. In addition, we appeased his odd wish to take 2,000 kilograms of gold to his ships.
Well, I see no reason for him to be mad if he is a god.
I am beginning to doubt that he's actually a god, for he has attacked many of our men on the outskirts of the city.
Does the fighting still continue?
Yes, it has been for the past 2 months. I hope it will end soon, as soon as he is sieging the main city.
Well, that is very interesting. So, for my next question.
Oh no, they're attacking again. I must go see what is happening.
Well, it seems this interview is over. Back to you, Jim. I have with me a first-hand witness to the effects of the siege on the native Aztec people. How did the war affect your people?
My people were terrified. Our traditions were lost. We were forced to conform to the practices of the Spaniards.
How were you treated by the Spaniards?
They were brutal, and as many tried to resist, we were forced into a certain lifestyle, a very different lifestyle.
When you say you changed your lifestyle, how is your new lifestyle different? In other words, how did the Spaniards live?
The Spaniards imposed many political, economical, and social institutions brought straight from Europe. It's hard for my people to conform. We have a very different mindset.
What were some of these new institutions?
They brought a feudal and a class system much like that of Spain. But worst of all, they forced their religion upon us. They destroyed all of our temples and built churches on them. They buried our artifacts, sweeping away our tradition. And then they relentlessly forced us to discard our native gods and avidly worship a new, confusing god. I have no more to say.
Wow. Isn't that heartbreaking? Back to you, Jim.
Thanks, Will. Our next guest today is here in the studio. He's an Aztec medical expert here to talk with us about the recent outbreak of smallpox in Mesoamerica. So, I hear there's a new epidemic spreading amongst your people. Would you like to share with us more about it?
Yes, the Spanish have brought this terrible sickness upon us. It is known to them as smallpox.
And what are the symptoms of this disease?
The victim's body becomes covered in red dots, and they are in pain and have nausea.
What have the Spanish done to try to help you?
Absolutely nothing. Our people are dying. The more they try to help, the more people die daily. The gods from the east have cursed our people. They are also immune to illness.
What gods do you speak of?
Quetzalcoatl and his Spanish army. We believe that they had to come to bless our people. But all they're doing is killing us.
I'm sorry for your loss. What do you and the rest of the Aztecs plan to do in the future against us?
I am afraid we cannot do anything. Our men are too weak to fight, and the gods are too powerful.
Can you tell me exactly why the smallpox is so deadly?
It spreads like wildfire. My people have never experienced a sickness such as this. It seems as there are more and more cases every day. Nobody can escape.
Have any important people fallen to this disease?
Yes, our late emperor, Cuitlahuac, along with many of his generals, have fallen.
And can you give me an estimate as to how many people have died from smallpox?
During the time of Cuitlahuac, 25% of our people were lost.
Can you tell us how this epidemic began?
It began with a fallen Spaniard. Our men were sent to loot his corpse, and days after they returned, they began to show symptoms of the smallpox virus. After that, the disease spread rapidly. The body of the Spanish must have been contaminated.
Well, it looks like we're out of time here. Thank you, Medicine Man, for joining us today, and I hope you and your people are better soon. Now, to Jansen with the weather. It's gonna rain! We thank you for joining us today on QPR News with this special edition. It's brought to you in part by Shane Dickens, the QPR Football Club, Sky Mall Magazine, our news team of myself, Will, Fran, Nina, James, Chris, Ryan, Sam, and athletes everywhere. Once again, thank you for joining us today on QPR News, and have a good night.